What if everything we've been told about autoimmunity is wrong? I'm Elizabeth Yarnell. After awakening partially blind one morning in 1999, a doctor told me my multiple sclerosis would put me in a wheelchair within 10 years. I refused to accept that as the end of the story, so I started investigating. Welcome to the Inflammation Investigator, the podcast that uncovers the inflammation lurking underneath your ailments. Because autoimmune and chronic conditions should not be viewed as death knells when they are actually alarm bells. I'm a traditional naturopath and founder of the Inflammation Academy. And in 2 episodes every week, we dig into what conventional medicine might be missing. If you're living with chronic or unexplained symptoms, this investigation is for you. Your body has been trying to tell you something. Let's start listening.
We've been talking about the tolerance threshold and the tolerance bucket. Let's talk about some things that you may not realize can be triggers that can go into your tolerance bucket, like smells and colors. While it may seem obvious that triggers of inflammation can be introduced through the foods and drinks we ingest or imbibe, it's easy to forget that flavors and aromas are also molecules and are therefore also capable of triggering inflammation. Often obliquely listed on ingredient labels as flavor, natural flavors, spices, parfum, or fragrance. They may smell or taste similar to something found in nature, but make no mistake, they are not entirely natural, and a hypersensitive body will notice. Truly natural aromas will be listed on a label as essential oil or essence of. For example, seeing simply peppermint leaves, or essence of peppermint on a tea label is an assurance that this tea is, in fact, made from an actual peppermint plant. Likewise, you can be sure that if you see peppermint flavor, that product contains an artificial, synthetic, or otherwise manufactured chemical substitute that mimics the flavor of peppermint, but no actual leaves or oil from that peppermint plant. Many fragrances and flavors in our modern world are created by chemists who tinker with molecules to design the smells and tastes used in our everyday commercial products and processed foods. When we suck on a hard candy, for instance, or drink a mainstream soda pop, our brains are fooled into smelling and tasting flavors of cherry or cola nut without there being any trace of either fruit or nut. Here's where I get into disagreements with chemists who point out that since the manufactured scents and flavors may have molecular structures identical to the originals, they should also affect a body in the same way as the original plant. They say that sucking on a peppermint candy containing peppermint flavor should have the same physiological effect as drinking a tea of steeped leaves from a peppermint plant. My only response to that argument is that the body knows the difference. While I personally can tolerate eating peppermint leaves from my garden just fine, one peppermint flavored candy or a cup of peppermint flavored tea can spark a mess of new symptoms in my body, which, in this case, include burning in my legs at night. Have I described this burning sensation yet? It's as if barbed wire were under my skin and being dragged down my legs. It's It's awful. Unfortunately, these chemical flavorings have become omnipresent in our food supply. Everything from so-called healthy soda waters to ketchup to non-dairy milks to chewing gum may contain, quote, natural flavors. You'll never know unless you study the ingredient list. For instance, if I were to order a strawberry milkshake at a fast food chain, chances are high that it may not actually contain any trace of a real strawberry. The better choice would be to find pure strawberry ice cream flavored with real ingredients that you can recognize listed on the label. The better choice would be to find pure strawberry ice cream flavored with real ingredients that you can recognize listed on the label. Or simply make it yourself with real organic ingredients of milk, strawberries, and cane sugar or honey. Once you know how, it's actually fun, easy, and cheap to make your own cleaner versions of your favorite foods. People have added natural colorings to food for centuries, but the first synthetic colorings were created in the mid-19th century from coal tar. I wish I were making this up. When food dyes and colors were first presented to the U.S. Food and Drug Administration, FDA, in the early 1930s, many were still developed from coal or other non-food substances. Today, most common food dyes and colors are sourced from petroleum, and most have not undergone rigorous testing to learn the effects of long-term exposure in large amounts on the health of humans or other mammals. As I am writing up this research in 2025, the FDA just banned red dye number 3 more than 30 years after research concluded it was carcinogenic. When it comes to commonly encountered toxins that can trigger hypersensitivity reactions, commercial food dyes are in the same category as synthetic fragrances and flavors, in that they are man-made and foreign to the human body. Humans evolved on this planet to process and thrive on the foods found in nature. Evolution never anticipated our exposure to or ingestion of substances like petroleum derivatives that originate miles beneath the Earth's surface. For us hypersensitive folks, I trace so many of our woes back to the Industrial Revolution in the mid-1800s that brought with it pollution and residue from coal-fired furnaces and led into petroleum becoming omnipresent in our lives through plastics, food additives, medicines, personal care products, colors, flavors, and fragrances. Smelling certain natural aroma molecules may trigger the symptoms of inflammation just as easily as if a substance were ingested or absorbed through the skin. Tearing up while chopping an onion or a runny nose during high pollen season prove that even though you can't see them, even natural plant-based aromas can trigger hypersensitivity reactions. But have you ever felt nausea after smelling a scented candle or lotion? Coughed after using hairspray? Or sneezed after catching a waft of a passerby's perfume? Man-made fragrance molecules can be challenging for our immune system to process effectively, and as a result, they can raise the level in your tolerance bucket. Our exposure to potentially toxic substances goes way beyond processed foods and drinks and their packaging. Almost every mainstream household cleaning product contains artificial fragrances, along with a mix of chemical cleaning agents. Along with household cleaning products, Personal care products such as antiperspirants, soaps, lotions, shampoos, and sunscreens are also scented with lab-tinkered fragrance molecules. Laundry cleaning products, for example, contain scents technologically designed to adhere to clothing fibers long after they are washed and dried. Designed to evoke a sense of fresh clean or summer's rain, using base elements that never actually appear in nature. These fragrances are cloyingly named so that consumers assume they are natural. When we sniff the artificial scent left in our clothes from laundry detergent or a dryer sheet, those molecules are drawn in through our nasal passages and sucked down deeply into the lungs, delivering the foreign molecules directly into the tiny bronchi, bronchioles, and alveoli, where they can irritate the sensitive tissues. While manufactured fragrances may successfully imitate nature's aromas well enough to deceive our brains, our bodies may not be able to metabolize the tinkered molecules. Bed linens laundered with familiar scented cleaning products expose our lungs and skin to chemicals all night long, not to mention the cloud of chemical smells off-gassing from wearing freshly laundered clothes that envelop us all day. All of this exposure adds to our personal toxic load and contributes to filling up our personal tolerance bucket, which can have far-reaching effects. As someone with an autoimmune condition, I try to limit my exposure to chemicals whenever possible, and as a result, am now sensitive enough to easily notice when noxious chemicals are introduced into my environment. In my house, I use eco-friendly, non-scented, dye-free laundry detergents, and dryer sheets are banned. But I can't always control what I encounter when out in the world. When my children were young, for example, we would carpool to school with a neighbor child. Within moments of the little boy entering my car, I would recognize the heavy smell of a popular commercial laundry detergent. Even though he was sitting in the back seat behind me, my eyes would water and sting during the 12-minute drive to the school, and no matter the weather, I would need to roll down the window in order to hang my head out at stoplights. I couldn't fault his mom for keeping him dressed in clean clothes every day, but I felt sorry for the 8-year-old, always enmeshed in an inescapable cloud of chemical fragrance. I wondered how much that constant chemical assault might not only be deadening his own sense of smell, but also perhaps influencing the insomnia and hyperactivity his mother worried about. Once the tolerance bucket fills too high and a person tips over into chronic inflammation of an autoimmune condition, they join the elite club of hypersensitive people. It's a club no one ever wants to join, and it's a lifetime membership in that once you are hypersensitive, you will always be hypersensitive. But that doesn't mean that all hope is lost. All it takes to live a life of comfort within your own skin is awareness and effort. The solution to living well as a hypersensitive person is to make conscious choices to keep the level in your tolerance bucket as low as possible. In the next episode, we'll talk a little bit more about food dyes.
And that's another case filed on the Inflammation Investigator. Remember, every symptom is your body's way of communicating. We just need to learn the language. If today's episode sparked something for you, I want to hear about it. Share your own investigation discoveries with me on social media at Elizabeth Yarnell, or find me at elizabethyarnell.com. Your experience could be exactly what another listener needs to hear. And make sure you're subscribed so you never miss an episode. And here's the thing about investigations. They work best when you're not going it alone. If this podcast is helping you uncover the answers you've been searching for, please like, rate, subscribe, and review, and share it with someone who needs to hear this message. As a new podcast, these actions mean more than you know. Want to dive deeper into your own inflammation investigation? Head over to inflammationinvestigator.com, where you can take my free inflammation quiz to uncover which hidden triggers might be affecting your health. Until next time, this is Elizabeth Yarnell, your inflammation investigator, reminding you that the solutions to your health issues are out there. Let's find them together.